So how are you doing, Pete?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good. This is your what, third or no, not the third. This is your 20th year in Australia?
16.
16th year. Wow.
Yeah. There's my coffee mug. Can you see that? There's my
Yeah.
coffee.
Oh, wow, look at that. What is that?
It's an old man mug I bought
Oh.
in Melbourne.
Oh. Oh, you said it right, Melbourne. Everyone's been saying
Melbourne.
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 That's what my brother. That's what Lou says. Melbourne, Brisbane, and Melbourne. Yeah.
Brisbane. Brisbane.
Yes, Brisbane. Yes.
This is awesome. Well, everyone, we have Peter here. We call him Pablo Pete online, and him and his nephew Nick have a podcast called Just Hit Play. So, Pete, pleased to see you again. I know last time we
Lovely to see you.
saw each other was your mom's funeral.
Yeah, a few years ago now. Yeah.
It's a terrible thing having to lose both parents. I know I lost mine.
Yeah.
So my mother passed July 19th, 1993, and 30 years,
Okay.
and on Wednesday, July 19th was 30 years.
Wow,
Exactly.
that's crazy.
It is. Time goes so fast.
Yeah.
You never forget.
It does. No, not at all. Mine was in 2019, and it feels just like yesterday. So
I know. Well, everyone, this is someone I know, of course. I knew both his brothers. And also, Peter is, I don't know if you still play tennis, but you were a really good tennis player back then. You were really good.
I still play occasionally.
But you were good.
Yeah, I was all right. Yeah.
I don't know. Why didn't you play professionally?
You know what it is? Being 5'7" and trying to play sports. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I was playing with a friend from work, and he was 6'5", 6'6", and not a very good tennis player. But I couldn't hit anything past him. He just would take like 2 or 3 steps, and he'd be across the court, or take a couple steps, and I would try to lob him, and he would just take a couple steps, and he's at the front of the court. So I had to work so hard just to be able to hit a shot past him, that and he wasn't very good. So I wouldn't have survived in a professional sort of circuit.
Yeah. Well, I know, Peter, not only are you a good tennis player, but also you have a couple musicians, I believe. I know Lou plays the guitar, and I know that they were part of a group called Lux Weaver back in the 80s. That's when I met. Lou was actually in 81. He showed up at my high school for only those 6 months, I guess, to finish off from his high school in Streetsville. And then it was, I think his name's Branco. I can't remember. And Mike Jardine.
Yeah, Rob Branco. Yep.
Yeah. And then Lou, and called himself Lux Weaver. And I remember the conversation I had with him. We were sitting in Miss Chopik's class, and he was talking about Lux Weaver and our harmonica player named Armo. I said, Armo? What kind of name is that? And then later on, I got a job at the gas bar up the street. And then Lou came by, and he said, I want to introduce you to Armo. I've always mentioned to you about Armo. Well, here he is. And Armando and I became good friends. And Lou and I have been friends ever since. Yeah. And Lisa, his wife Lisa, your sister-in-law, I met in college. So it's sort of like we're all connected here. We're all connected.
Yeah, it's funny with with Lou. He's 10 years older than me, so I remember being a kid and 4 or 5 years old. He's a teenager, but because of that age difference, my musical upbringing was so different than other kids my age, because I was listening at the age of 4 and 5 years old. I was listening to Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and Styx and Supertramp. So my level of musical education, I felt, was so far and superior than a lot of my other classmates who were listening to, I don't know, what were you like, Tony, who's that girl saying, Mickey, you're so fine. Like, that was the age that I'm talking about. Right. So, Tony Basil, that's who it was.
Yeah.
Tony Basil. So yeah, my musical experience growing up was very different than others. Like, Hotel California was like one of my favorite songs. I remember I was like 4 or 5, and I loved that song so much.
Yeah. Were you ever exposed to backward masking? You remember that?
Yeah, yep. My brother told me all about that. Yeah, with the Beatles and the Led Zeppelin, a lot of backward masking. Yeah.
Yeah, backward masking, and there's an ELO song
Yeah.
called Waterfalls. If you play backwards, it's like
Yeah.
he's cursing Jesus and everything. It's like, oh.
Yeah. There's all
But I
that
was
sort of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and I was reading a lot of information about what backward masking really is, because I heard
Mm.
that if you take Black Oak, Arkansas, and you play some of
Yep.
their songs backwards, I mean, when you're playing it forward, you get the word natas, natas, and if you play that
Right.
backwards, it's Satan. But I think it was just actually printed there. I think some are just made and some are just accidental.
Sure. Yeah.
But you ever seen
Well,
that? It's a YouTube video, I believe, or an Instagram
yeah.
video, and all it is, they give you like a listing of 5 phrases, and every time you hear it spoken, it sounds like one of these phrases that you look at.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
No, I've never seen that. That's pretty
yeah.
interesting.
So
But there's a band called Tool that was around, and like they're still around today, but they were sort of predominantly in the '90s. And they're wonderful musicians, and they're sort of on another level when they come to intermingling their music. So they have a song written on 2 different records that, if you played at the same time, becomes a third song. So you have to literally have 2 CD players, press play at the same time, and the song then it connects to become a third song. So there's some really interesting things that are happening in the recording industry.
don't you have to synchronize that though? Like, how does
Yeah,
that
you
work?
literally have to get 2 CD players
Hmm.
playing at the same time, and you have to
That,
press play on both of them at the same time for the
oh,
third song to be played. Yeah.
that's amazing. Are they the only group that did that?
It's the only one that I know of. There might be others, but I know Tool is the only one that I know that does stuff like that.
Well, to tell you the truth, the guy that I worked with, he played Tool all the time, and all he is just this screaming and shouting like Rob Zombie,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's not music. Music has lyrics that you
Yeah.
can understand, you know? Um,
Yeah. If I'm not the biggest Tool fan myself, if you're a Tool fan, you're really a Tool fan. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not the biggest one myself.
Not me. I like the songs by like Elton John, Billy Joel, and
Sure.
maybe
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe John Denver. I like John Denver and
Yeah.
Elvis Presley.
Yeah. Great stuff.
So Peter, so very nice to see you again. And I know
Yeah.
that, like I mentioned before, the last time we met was under unfortunate circumstances. But now that we're here now online, now did I just say nowing? Now online,
Right.
um,
Yep.
I want to ask you about. It was Armando that told me about that you and your nephew Nick,
Yeah.
you know, Joe's son, that you came up with a podcast called Just Hit Play. And I
Yeah.
checked it out, and I'm like, wow. Can you give us a little idea of how did you come up with that?
Sure. So the podcast has been going for a couple of years, but even before then, I'm pretty close with my nephew.
Mhm,
But obviously, I live in Australia and he lives in Canada. So I missed his growing up in a lot of ways, because I would come, every month. I'd come every like couple of years and I'd spend a month with him.
mhm.
But again, I totally missed his like high school graduation, him growing up and all that kind of stuff. And I was really sort of hit. I don't have any kids myself, and I see him in a lot of ways as he's very close to me. And we used to write letters to each other back and forth, just handwritten
Oh,
letters. I used to really enjoy that when he was a kid. Uh, and then as I got a little bit older and he got a little bit older, it dawned on me that I stopped listening to new music. I was just going back to the music that I grew up listening, and I wasn't really hearing any new music. And then I thought, well, maybe Nick hasn't really heard a lot of older music, like from the 80s and the 90s, 60s, and 70s. So we just exchange music every week. So I'd give him a song to listen to, and he'd give me a song to listen to, and we would just do that. We just did that for a few months, and I was thinking, well, this has been a lot of fun. I wonder, if we could turn this into a podcast and just put it live, where I'd get him to listen to an Ike and Tina Turner song. He had never listened to a Tina Turner song. He had never
oh,
listened to a Doors song. Um, and so that's how it started. So I got him to listen to some older music, and I got to listen to a lot more hip hop. So it's been an equal exchange. I think I'm very interested in hearing what he's listening to, as he is interested in hearing what I'm listening to.
well, Peter and hip hop, those two don't mix.
Yeah, it's been, I've listened to a lot of Kanye, a lot of Frank Ocean, a
Oh.
lot of little music like that. So it's been fun.
What final album do you think you were spinning so much that you put scratches through it and the sleeve was ripped back when you were younger, living with your parents,
Yeah.
coming back from school, and then you took that album and you played it again and again and again when you had to
Yeah.
probably I don't know. Most people, some people have actually went and bought another one, just did the same thing over and over again.
Sure. I have two that come to mind. I'm a big U2 fan. So the Joshua Tree came out when I was 13. There seems to be the 13, 14-year-old range where you sort of really get into music, and
Mhm.
that music stays with you for a long time. So I remember listening to the Joshua Tree on vinyl a lot. And probably I still have the original copy, but that has probably got a lot of scratches on it. And the other one that I used to steal from my brother when he was at college was Back in Black by AC/DC. Um, I really dug that album, but I couldn't listen to it. He would kill me if I ever borrowed it. So I'd have to wait for him to go to college, and then I would listen to it and then put it back when he came back from college.
Yeah, I did the same thing when my brother was away. He had this really great stereo. We're talking about the 80s here. And it was
Yeah, yeah,
Breakfast in America by Supertramp. I played
a great
every
album.
song. My
Yeah,
favorite was the Logical Song.
logical
Breakfast
song.
in
Yeah,
America, I think, was one. And Don't You Look at My Girlfriend, that one.
yeah,
And I played it. And then one day he caught me playing in his
yeah,
stereo.
yeah.
Don't play any, don't touch my album. Oh, man, was I in trouble.
Yeah,
But I
no,
loved
I
it.
had to make sure I put it back where it was, and so it didn't look like it'd been used. And I remember it like was also Led Zeppelin with Black. I know I can't remember the Led Zeppelin album, but it had Black Dog on it, and
Mhm.
his Sergeant Pepper record I used to listen to a lot, so I used to have to put that back, very carefully where I found it.
So what do you think was your favorite childhood memory? Was it a piece of music? Was it an album? Was it something totally non-musical?
Wow, great question. I have this really affinity with me and Lou listening to Hotel California by the Eagles, and just their old living room and in the house that I grew up in. Just on those old stereo systems that look like a coffee table.
Mhm. Oh,
There was a
yeah.
place to put the records in the middle, and there was an 8-track player and a record player. It was on like one of those old credenza sort of looking things. And listening to just the 45 of Hotel California with my brother was a very fond memory.
Was that your favorite song, though, from that album?
I loved Hotel California. Yeah, like
Oh, yeah?
as a kid, that was probably my favorite song growing up. Yeah.
So what do you think is the actual truth behind that song? I know Don Henley has been asked many times, does it have something to do with,
Mm.
Hotel Satan, or is it just when they say
Yeah.
that you stab them with your steely knives, but you just
Yeah.
can't like, what's that all about?
I I don't know. I think it's more allegorical than that. I, I think it's more about drug addiction and drug abuse, where it's so hard to kick that beast, and so many people have gone to rehab and relapsed and gone to rehab. So that's how I always thought it was. It's trying to change that part of your life, and it's so hard to do that. That's what I always saw that song being. But again, I think it's an interpretation of the listener.
So, when you heard Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, what was the first thing that went
Yeah.
through your head?
Oh, LSD for sure. But apparently that's not what that song is about. John Lennon's son, Sean, drew a painting, and John Lennon asked him what that was. And he goes, "Oh, that's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." That's the story behind that song. Whether, you can believe, John Lennon's version of that story if you want. I'm guessing John Lennon, did LSD and amongst other things. So yeah, it's up to you what you want to believe.
Yeah, actually, several songs. In fact, another one is Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Mm-hmm.
Bridge is
Yep.
like the wrist, and then the water is like the vein, and
Yeah.
then bridge is the.
Yeah.
But that's
Yep.
what people's interpretation. Somebody else out there might thinking, "Oh, I know
Yeah.
what that is. That's a great song," but you know,
Yeah. Like I just finished Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones. I just finished
Mhm.
his biography, and
Nice.
he details his drug addiction for years. And there's the famous song called Angie, which is one of my favorite songs. And I had no idea what that was about. His daughter is named Angie, and it was when she was born, and he had to go on tour again, and he just wrote a song about Angie. I always thought that was about a past love, or there was rumors that it was about David Bowie's ex-wife, Angie, but apparently it's about his daughter.
I thought it was about angel dust. That's what I heard about.
See, there you go. See, but his daughter is named Angie, and she was born a little bit before he recorded that song.
Well, you can't write a song about your daughter or your son because someone's going to think, "I know that."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there you go.
Your
That's he
daughter
knows what it's about.
heroin.
Yeah,
That's what it's about. Your daughter
that's
heroin. You named her after heroin. No, no, she saved someone who was only hit by a car.
that's right. Exactly. Like, isn't that the great thing about music, though? It's art. It's some people have such interpretations of it, and it's equally pleasurable for everyone.
Yeah, I was very concerned about now that there was a girl on TikTok and she was saying, I just spent $9,159 on a Taylor Swift ticket. And I was like,
Yeah,
what? Did you pay for your
yeah,
college yet? Like, so, and
yeah.
I discussed this with someone, and they know why Ticketmaster and all of them, why they would
Hmm.
charge you a lot of money.
Yeah,
And it's fraud. It's
it is.
what are your thoughts on that Taylor Swift tickets go for so much? Why can't you just buy a ticket for
Oh,
$100 and go to the concert? Why
yeah.
is she not notified that this is what's happening?
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like the first concert I ever went to
Mhm.
was U2. Like as when I could afford to buy my own ticket, and I had a paper route, and the ticket was $30, and it
All
took a
right.
chunk out of my pay, but I paid for it myself. How are kids affording to go see a Taylor Swift show where it's
Mhm.
thousands and thousands of dollars if their parents aren't buying the tickets? That sort of removes a huge segment of the population from being able to see a show. You have to have a lot of money to go see a Taylor Swift show, and that's not music for the people, as far as I'm concerned. That eliminates so much of your audience.
So what if Bono called you up and said, "Okay, I'm going to be having a concert in Brisbane,
Mm. Yep.
and we have two tickets for you and your significant other. But the
Yep.
ticket is that there's a pole in front of you, and the only way to see
Yeah.
the
Right. Yeah.
like this. But you've got this for free." Would your
Yeah.
reaction be like, "Well, at least I'm here to see YouTube, even if I have to spend it like this"? But what's your reaction on the seats? Like, what? Why would you
Yeah.
complain about that?
I'd go see the. I'd go see the show. It would have to be for free, but yeah, I'd listen to the show. I guess if I couldn't see it, sure. Yeah.
So I'll let my audience know that you're also a photographer and you're really good
Yep.
with Cabral Photography,
Oh, thank you.
and
Thank you.
a lot of your models as well, decent models, and knowing like I'm a photographer too, and sometimes everyone on Instagram, whatever, he'd have a photo and look at it and say, "Oh, you
Mm.
could done better," and
Yeah.
I would send you a message, and then your reaction was, mm, you know, but I think I just did
Yeah.
that for a joke, but so, what is the best part about photography, and do you incorporate,
Yeah.
for instance, album covers? Now, the
Sure.
Abbey
Yeah.
Road album cover,
Yeah.
and there's a man standing way in the back, and he came forward and
Yeah.
said, "That's me." Now,
Yeah.
when you shoot an album, I don't know, have you ever shot album covers?
Sure. Yeah.
Now, do you think an album cover is better with the actual band on the front, or do you prefer just to shoot an album cover that has nobody in the front?
I prefer the band to be in the image because I like photographing people.
Mhm.
But a lot of times you're in discussion with the band on what their vision is for the album as well. There's a band that I photographed a few months ago called Minor Gold,
Mm.
and they came to me because they paid. They're friends of mine, so I should say that they paid a photographer an exorbitant amount of money, and they didn't like the images, and they asked him
Wow.
if they could change a few things, and he flatly said no, and
Uh-oh.
and they forked over all this money, and they didn't like the images, so they couldn't use the images, so they came to me, and we shot everything, but it was a collaboration. We discussed a lot of things. It was back and forth. We went to the location that they wanted, and it was great, and we got some amazing images out of it, some of my favorite images. But I love the collaboration part of it. That's the part that I enjoyed the most. So yeah, and they still use the photographs, and that's great.
Was there a certain price that someone paid for one of your photographs that you have just fond memory of, that I can't believe people liked it, or I can't believe I got this
Yeah.
much money for it, or
Yeah, a friend of mine bought an image of mine. I was just out for a hike, and I came around this corner, and there was
Mm.
a tree. The tide had got out, so it was a hike near the ocean and here in Brisbane, and it was really, really early in the morning. The sun had just come up, and the tide was out, and this tree had this perfect reflection on the ocean of this little tidal pool. Sorry to hit the microphone. This little tidal pool, and I took the image and I sort of was like, oh, that's a pretty cool image. And then when I got home and opened it up in Photoshop and played around with it a little bit, I thought it was pretty decent. And my friend, I posted it online. My friend right away messaged me and she goes, I have to buy this off you. I want to hang this up in my house. And that's always a really pleasant thing to hear. And so I was like, yeah, of course. And she told me the size that she wanted, and yeah, that was great. Yeah.
So you digitally manipulated a photo.
Yeah, photography is a lie. I can't
It
stress that
is.
enough.
And it's probably not the morning. You probably did it in your
Yeah,
bedroom and
right.
you cut and paste
Yeah.
yourself in the back scene. Um,
Oh
so what do
God.
you
Yeah, the manipulation is crazy. Yeah.
so what kind of camera do
Yeah.
you use? You use the Nikon, you use the Minolta. What camera do you
Yeah,
like? Do you
I've
digital camera?
yeah. So since I was a kid, I've always used Canon.
Mm.
And the simple reason we were speaking about tennis earlier, the simple reason I went to Canon is because Andre Agassi was the spokesman for a brand of Canon camera called the Rebel back in the 80s and 90s.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I always loved Andre Agassi. That was the first camera I ever bought was the Canon Rebel way back when, and yeah, so I've always been very partial to Canon myself. So yeah, I have a couple cameras. I've moved on to mirrorless cameras, which are brilliant, and so I have two or three mirrorless cameras now that I use for different things.
Yeah, back when I was working at a photo lab, I bought the Minolta 7000i for intelligent with the 200
Mm-hmm.
meter lens, millimeter lens, and
Yeah,
the fifth, and I did some pretty good pictures of that. But
yeah.
now nobody hardly ever uses like chemicals and developer. It's all digital
No,
now. And
no, no. But I worked at a camera store for a bit, and do you know who's buying film? Our kids. It's They're teenagers that buy film nowadays because they like they like the fact that they have to go out and print it, and us adults that remember the darkroom days, don't really go there because of the frustration of being in the darkroom and the time it takes, and so yeah, there was no adults buying film; it was all kids buying film, which I thought was really really funny.
okay, Peter,
Yeah.
give me 5 songs, the artist as
Yep.
well, that have the word camera or photograph in it.
Oh my God. Five. Well, there's the Jay Giles band Centerfold. We can go with that one.
Okay.
Uh, God, I can't think of any. Can you think of any? The only one that comes to mind is Jay Giles band.
How about I Am a Camera?
Oh, what's that one?
And Girls on Film, another one by
Girls on
Duran
Film,
Duran.
Duran Duran. There's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't think of many songs. Yeah.
Let me see. I Am a Camera.
I think there's a song called Photograph. I think.
Yes, Photograph was it's Chad Krieger from what's that one? Nobody likes. Well, I'm not saying nobody likes his voice,
Oh,
but Chad
Nickelback.
Krieger, Nickelback. Yeah, they have a
Nickelback.
song called
Yeah.
Photograph.
Yeah, that's right. They do. Yeah.
Yep. I Am a Camera, The Buggles, 1981.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, are you a fan of Yes?
Yeah, I don't mind a couple songs. Yeah.
What about the song Into the Lens?
Okay, there you go. See? Yeah. Never, yep, forgot about that one.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
has your musical journey or musical interests, have they changed over the years? For instance, I was heavily into obviously Casey and the Sunshine Band, but I was into
Yeah.
Bee Gees, I was into Billy Joel, Elton John. Right now, you might not catch me listening to Billy Joel. The songs that
Mhm.
you heard 30 years ago, do you still hear today? And do you still like them? You still have the same emotional feel towards them?
No, I wouldn't say the same. Like there was a band I loved in the 90s, the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I love them.
Loved them.
Hmm.
But I have a hard time listening to them now. I don't know,
Really?
it's maybe it was their music's a little bit dated to me and it's just hard for me to listen to now. Okay, I'm
Seriously?
gonna give you yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Chili Peppers anymore. I can't listen to their music really. And I'm gonna throw out an artist that people love that I am not a fan of, and that is Queen.
Oh, okay.
Don't get it. I'm not a big fan of Queen. I know they write some great songs, and Bohemian Rhapsody is a classic, and I get all that stuff. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan.
You've never been a big fan of Queen.
I, I, yeah, I've liked. their music, kind of, but yeah, if they come on the radio, or if I'd probably skip it if a song came on. Yeah,
Peter Frampton.
yeah. See, I don't mind Peter Frampton. Again, very dated, very 70s, but I'd listen to a Peter Frampton song. Yeah.
Peter Gabriel.
See, I love Peter Gabriel. So he's one. You're a singer, so you kind of know where I'm not a singer. I can't sing. But if I had if a genie came and gave me a wish and said, "Who would you like to sound like?" I would go Peter Gabriel. Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
he's got the perfect voice. Yeah.
Are you a big Genesis fan?
I didn't mind Genesis with Peter Gabriel, but I became much more of a Peter Gabriel fan after he left Genesis.
I actually agree with you, Pete, because I used to listen to the Police, but now I'm a big Sting fan. I can't even, maybe one or
Yeah.
two songs from the Police, but ever
Sure. Yeah.
since Sting went solo, I started listening. I love
Yeah.
Sting. And he also
I
collaborated with
saw.
Shaggy.
Yes, he does. Yeah, that's right. I saw Sting in 1994 at Canada's Wonderland, of all places.
You did.
Yeah, so as he was playing, I can't remember what the auditorium was at Canada's Wonderland, but yeah, we had really good seats, and yeah, we went to see Sting at Canada's Wonderland.
So what is your favorite movie that you like to watch? And is it music in it?
There's a trilogy that I really have very romantic feelings towards. It's the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before, I think it's Before Midnight is the third one. I don't know if you ever heard of these movies.
Yeah, I love these movies. Before Sunrise, Before
Yeah,
Sunset, and the same woman is in the same guy is in them. And I think they're doing a fourth
yeah,
one.
right. I think what I love about those movies is that I'm the same age as the characters in the movie. So when I saw Before Sunrise, I was going through a bit of a thing. I was going through a bit of a breakup at the time, and
Mhm.
I saw Before Sunrise in Toronto. I saw Before Sunset in London, England, and I saw the third movie in Sydney, Australia. So there's a lot of correlations between me and that movie. I'm the same age as the characters, and each movie set in a different location. And I've seen each movie opening night in a different country, and just happened to be in the city when these movies were coming out. So I just have a really affinity for those movies.
Yeah, I saw a movie on Netflix some months ago. It's called My Father's Violin, and it's not even done in English, but it's
Oh,
really, really well
yeah,
made, and it got
yeah,
English subtitles, but I think
yeah.
it's I think it's Turkish.
Okay,
They actually play Turkish. Like they speak Turkish, but they have English subtitles. But the actual
yeah.
plot, you don't even notice that they're speaking Turkish. The
Exactly.
plot.
Like those movies are timeless, really. When there's a lot of technology in movies or CGI, those always are going to look dated, and they will always eventually look bad. But when it's just a story about two people, or just a very simple story, those are just timeless.
Did you ever have to skip school just to get your favorite single from the store, like for Mr. Sound or Sam the Record Man?
No,
You have
no. But I did go to a few midnight. See, kids listening to this won't have any clue what we're talking about.
yeah, I know.
I remember I went to HMV a couple times for midnight releases where they could sell
Mhm,
the record at like 12:01 or whatever
mhm.
on the day. And so yeah, I went to a couple midnight releases, and there was like hundreds of us lined up to get. I think it was Octung Baby to get Octung Baby, the new U2 record. So yeah, kids will have no idea what that would be like. Yeah.
Well, when you talk about lineups, they'll say, "Yeah, for the newest iPhone," or a
Yeah.
passport.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
terrible.
Well.
I'm standing in line. I'm going. This line is as big as when you want to go get the new iPhone. It's ridiculous. But yeah, back
Yeah.
then I remember Mr. Sound. I remember that they had David Usher from Moist at
Wow. Okay.
the record store at Shared Mall there.
Yeah.
They
Yep. I
had
remember it. Yep.
David Usher there, and I was at that mall anyway, and David Usher was signing autographs in the lineup. I'm like, and you don't hear much of David Usher now. And this was like 20 years
No,
ago.
Moist is one of those forgotten bands. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Trust yourself. Your instincts are right. I, I I tend to kind of know what my next move is always going to be instinctually. Um, there's only been a couple of times in my life where I felt really disoriented and not sure what to do. But I would say most of the time, my instincts have been generally correct. So trust myself and know that, it'll be fine. You might not win all the time, but there's no losing. It's just moving on and figuring out what you've done wrong and just continuing.
Do you and your two brothers share the same musical genres? Like, for instance, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. It's funny. Lou and I have been friends for almost over 30 years, but I can't even remember the last time you listened to Supertramp or even mentioned it.
Yeah, I don't know if he listens to that stuff anymore. But I do find that because I have two older brothers and they're 10 and
Mhm,
8 years or 7 years older than me.
mhm.
And they both have very different musical tastes that I'm sort of right in the middle of both of them. You know, my brother Joe loves Styx and U2 and a lot of those 80s bands. And I love that kind of stuff. And Lou like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Supertramp, the Eagles, and I love all that stuff. And so yeah, I'm sort of down the center between both of them of my musical taste. I sort of was able to get enough from both of them to set me on the right path.
Yeah, I actually like Styx, and I love the song "Sail Away."
Yeah, great song.
And
Yeah.
but Styx wasn't the same when Dennis DeYoung left. But his solo work
No,
is good.
no,
Desert
no.
Moon solo work is really good. And I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
try to reach out and say, Mr. DeYoung, can you come on the podcast so we can talk to you about a
yeah,
song?
exactly.
But
Yeah,
no, they
no,
want,
very, very, very different band when
yeah,
he left. Absolutely, yeah,
yeah. So I always like to tell people that, well, actually not tell them, but give them some information. Now, were you a big Chicago fan when you were growing up?
no, not some. Like I knew their stuff. Like I was peripherally aware of their music, but I wouldn't like put on one of their records or anything like that. No,
So you wouldn't tell the difference between Terry Kath or Peter Cetera, because Peter Cetera, he became lead
no,
singer
no,
after Terry Kath died, and now when
no. I
Peter
probably wouldn't.
Cetera
No,
left the band, it's somebody else
yeah,
now, but it's still
yeah,
not bad music.
yeah. No, I probably wouldn't know the difference now.
So talking about your podcast, Just Hit Play,
Yeah.
when you and Nick choose certain songs, are there songs that he's like, Uncle Peter, no, no, can't believe you like that one. No way.
There
No,
has been
no.
a there has been a few. Uh, so I love punk rock.
Mhm.
I love Iggy Pop and the Stooges. S-
Wow.
Uh, so he had heard of Iggy Pop, but I've never heard an Iggy Pop song. So I got him to listen to Iggy Pop and the Stooges. I Want to Be Your Dog, which is a very visceral sort of song. And he thought it was going to be a pop song because his name is called Iggy Pop. So anyone who doesn't know Iggy Pop, he's not a pop artist. So he's definitely one of the forerunners of the punk rock movement. And he did not like Iggy Pop and I Want to Be Your Dog, which is a shame because I love that song, but he was not a fan.
Were you a fan of Thin Lizzy? I remember now. Lou would
I love Thin Lizzy.
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, he used to listen to Thin Lizzy. He would show up
Yeah.
at school and say, "I listened to the Thin Lizzy song," and now I remember. Yes, Thin Lizzy, but you don't hear much
Yeah.
from them anymore.
No, they haven't. Geez, I can't remember when the lead singer of Thin Lizzy died. It would have been in the '80s, so they haven't been around for so many years. Yeah,
Yeah. Now I want to ask
yeah.
you: was there specific any gospel music that you enjoyed listening to?
I love like Aretha Franklin and like a
Mhm.
lot of the old gospel music, the soul music, Ray Charles. I
Yeah.
it's so funny. I was just reading about this the other day when radio started and the 45 was first getting pressed.
Hmm.
It wasn't classical music that was being broadcast. It was music of the people. It was country and blues. It was R&B. It was soul music. It was gospel. Those are the stuff that the people wanted to listen to. It wasn't chamber music or orchestral music so much. It's really grassroots music of the people. And the 45, how that impacted music, I don't think it gets talked about enough. And there's a correlation between the 45 and what Spotify
Hmm.
has done to music. So you can almost bookend the 45 and what Spotify has done. But it was gospel music and it was R&B and country music that really was sold early in those days. So gospel music is the origin for everything, really.
Do you think there's one genre of music better than the other? that you would
No.
gravitate to? No.
Not really. I kind of listen to everything. I don't like certain genres of music, or sub. You can even go subgenre now. Uh, but generally, if it's a good song, it's a good song.
Okay, so what about opera? Do you like opera?
Love opera. Beethoven
Nice.
kills me. Like if I could listen to anything, uh, Beethoven would be it. Yeah.
No, wait a minute. That's not opera. I'm talking about opera. I'm not talking about
No,
classical
I
music.
know, but you know, opera adjacent. How's that?
I'm talking like Andre Bocelli, Matteo Bocelli. I'm
Yep.
talking about
See,
Marian
I
Anderson.
can listen. I could listen to that stuff. Again, it's if it moves me, I'm into it, right? So it has to move me.
So what about well, yeah, that's true actually. A lot of music moves me, but then there is music which I'm like, don't play that again, please. No, no,
Yeah,
no, no, I'm leaving. So that song
yeah,
would be Jump by Van Halen. I hate that song.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Right, right.
I know hate a strong word, but I like Jump,
Yeah,
like uh,
bad
forgive
song.
me
Yeah,
of disrespect to Mr. Van Halen himself, but I
yeah,
still hate the song. Is there a
yeah,
music
bad
is there a
song.
piece
Yeah,
of, is there oh, you hate it too?
yeah. I'm not a big fan of that song. I would say the song I hate the most is
Mhm.
probably Radio Gaga by Queen. I detest that song so much. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't like that song. Yeah. I think the lyric is bad. I don't think it's sung particularly well. The music isn't great. Yeah.
So, yeah, so if you were, let's say you were in a ship and it's shipwrecked and
Yep.
you were on a desert island and you
Yeah.
could only take 3 albums with you, what would they be?
Sure. Yeah. I would definitely take Beethoven, probably the Eighth Symphony, which I adore, and it's very long, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't get sick of it. I'd probably take the Joshua Tree because
Mhm.
of how much I love that album, and probably Sergeant Pepper because I do love Sergeant Pepper.
So what part of, the U2 band do you like? Do you like, what's his name? It's Bono, but what's
Bono,
the
yep.
drummer's name?
Larry Mullen, yep,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Again, it's simple music. It's not you two are definitely not a complicated band. They always just write simple music. So I'm a simple person. I'm not a very complicated guy. So yeah, I've always liked you two just for the simplicity of the music that they release.
I can't remember another band that sounds like U2. You listen to it
Yeah,
and you think it's U2, but it's not.
yeah,
What about
they're very unique. Yeah.
yeah. What about the newest music? Imagine Dragons, Panic at the Disco? Like,
No, not a big fan, I must admit. If I said this the other day, if Imagine Dragons is the new rock sort of pinnacle, I was like, I think we're in a little bit in trouble. Uh, it's not very good, unfortunately. No.
now, Armando was a huge Beatles fan. He could literally
Yeah, yeah,
answer any Beatles question, anything.
yep,
How
yep.
about you?
Yeah, huge Beatles fan. Same. I've done a lot of reading about the Beatles. Love the Stones. Love that genre of music. The Kinks are one of my favorite bands. Love that early to mid '60s sort of stuff. Yeah, great. You know, a lot of kids talk about boomers and how
Mhm.
okay boomer and boomer music, and I was like, boomer music is probably the greatest music, at least modern music, that's ever been recorded compared to what they listen to now. I think I would choose boomer music, from the '60s and '70s over what I've been hearing today. Yeah.
So if you think you're a big Beatles fan,
Yeah, I'm okay.
what is Paul McCartney's middle name?
Oh, is it Decca? Is it
Nope,
Declan? No.
that's
Paul.
Declan McManus. That's Elvis Costello.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of Mr. Costello. Yeah, I don't know. Don't know his middle name. Yeah.
Okay. Well, everyone, you can be listening to this too.
Yeah.
He was born with the name James Paul McCartney.
There you go. So Paul's his middle name. Yeah.
That's right. There you go. That's
Yeah.
the clincher right
Cool.
there.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, so if you could, well, I won't ask you this question, but I was going to ask you if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? And it's Australia, of
Yeah.
course.
I'm pretty happy here. It's pretty tropical, and I got paid yesterday to go to there's the Women's World Cup going on in Australia right now, and I
Mhm.
got paid to go take photographs of Nigeria versus Ireland last night. So yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah, it's
That
winter
is
and it's
awesome.
23. It's winter and it's 22, 23 degrees today. So yeah, this is all right.
You live in a screwed up place because your
Yeah,
winter, like your winter is now, and your summer is when we have winter. Plus, you're
it's even
14
worse
hours
than
ahead.
that. 14 hours. It's worse than that because I love baseball. I'm a huge Blue Jays fan, and I watch the Blue Jays for breakfast because the games are on at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning here. So while I'm having a coffee and having my toast or whatever, that's usually when I'm watching the Blue Jays baseball. And when I go home, it feels weird to be watching them at nighttime. It just feels really weird now. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
you ever ran into a camel spider?
No, I've run into a couple of snakes while I've been here. Uh, a lot of huntsmen. I've seen a lot of huntsman spiders. They're everywhere. I went for a hike the other day, and I found there's a beautiful bird out here called a kingfisher, and it's an azure kingfisher. So it's this beautiful purple. And they're tiny, tiny little birds. So I'll hold it up to the camera. Their bird is probably that big, and they're
Mm.
beautiful birds. And I'm walking back and forth in this dry riverbed to try to get a decent view to get this kingfisher, and I almost stepped on a python
Oh,
that was just
wow,
lying there in
really?
the sun. I
Wow.
came like 2 or 3 yards from. I didn't see it. It just blended so well into the dry riverbed and the rocks, and it was just trying to get the morning sun. And I almost stepped on this python 3 or 4 times, probably, until my girlfriend pointed it out to me, and I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
okay, 8 foot python. Okay,
Wow. I just
yeah,
saw a video the other day of a boa constrictor chasing some guy down, and when it was going down, it's like head was like this, and you saw it
yeah,
just going like if I mean, I don't care if a tiger's chasing me or lion's
yeah,
chasing me, but if a boa constrictor was chasing me, I'm like, stay away from them because they could just wrap around and just squeeze you to death.
yeah." There's some.
Mhm.
I've seen some big boas here. Yeah, like 8 foot, 10 feet long. So yeah, this one was curled up and it was huge. So I'm glad I didn't step on it. Yeah.
So, been meaning to ask you some time ago anyway, maybe ask you, what's your motivation for moving to Australia?
Oh, the women.
Okay,
um,
there you go,
I met
everyone.
a yeah, I met a girl, and we're no longer together. But I met a girl and moved here. We were married for 10 years, and when we were going through our divorce, I had the option of coming home, and then I decided that I probably will do better with women here than if I went home because I'm just another ordinary guy back home. But here, at least I'm a little bit exotic. I have at least a little bit going for me here. And I was proven correct. Again, my instincts were right, and I've been with my current partner for almost 10 years now. So yeah, I've been pretty happy.
That's the one I saw at the funeral, right?
Yes,
That's the
that's
same one?
Angie. Yeah, yeah,
Angie. Okay, so let
yeah,
me just get a ticket here to Australia and pack my
yep.
bags and
It's a pretty cool place. It's I'm not gonna lie. It's when I run into like other Canadians or other Americans,
Mhm.
especially photography wise, I run into a lot of Americans and Canadians. We sort of look at each other as like, this is pretty amazing. They're like, yeah, yeah, it's crazy good here. So yeah,
Yeah. I had a few on the podcast. One was from Perth, Australia, and then I
yep,
had
love Perth.
yeah, one from Swansea, I believe.
Okay,
But
yeah.
yeah, but Australia is pretty large. And whenever a guest says
Yeah.
they're from Australia, I have to think, okay, so where are you from? Because you're either 16 hours from me or 14 hours from me.
Mhm.
So sort of like, but I have problems
Yeah,
with the
and
CSTs because they're an hour earlier than I am. And I'm like, I was on a podcast with
right.
this famous musician at 12 noon and she didn't show up. And then at 5 to 1, she says, yeah, so we have a podcast at noon, don't we? So wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's at 5 to 1.
Yeah,
Why did you tell me you were CST? You're an hour,
that's right, yeah. Well,
it's a
you
time
you
zone.
mentioned Perth, and I
Yeah.
love Perth. Like, it's like a
Mhm.
6-hour flight for me from Brisbane. It's right across the country, but Perth is
Wow.
an amazing city. It's the most isolated capital city in the world. There's nothing around Perth, and you drive like an hour north of Perth, and you start getting into the outback. It's amazing. So if anyone ever comes to Australia, please go to Perth. It's amazing city.
So, yes. Oh, yes. So have you been home yet? I don't know if you've been home this year yet.
No, I was home last November for a month, and
Okay.
just stayed at Joe's place in Milton. So it was great to see family. I have this thing where I don't tell some people that I'm coming home, and then I just show up to places where they are and just sort of freak them out, which is always a kind of a fun thing. I've done that a few times. I've just knocked on someone's door. It's like, hey, how's it going? So that's always fun to do. So yeah, sometimes I tell people, sometimes I don't. So
Well, just let me know when you're in town.
Yeah, you'll never know. Some people never know when I'm home. So yeah, it was fun.
So would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I like to answer that question with I'm definitely an introvert, but I get paid to be an extrovert at times. Yeah, you have to pay me to be an extrovert, and sometimes people do pay me to be an extrovert.
When you met Angie, was it sort of like, so what kind of music do you like? Because that'll depend on what type of music you like
Yeah,
if we're going to stay together.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of our first discussions was music on our first date, and yeah, that was very important. And she's got some fantastic musical taste, mostly because it's very similar to mine. But yeah, so it was yeah, musical. We had a big musical conversation on our first date. Yeah.
And what kind of music does she like? Anything you like
You
as
know,
well?
she does love a lot of the same music that I like, but she likes music a little bit heavier. So she's really into heavy metal. So she'll listen to Dokken and Rainbows in the Dark and Ghost and
Wow.
a lot of like these Norwegian death metal bands and stuff like that. So yeah, she's definitely a harder likes her music a lot harder than I like mine.
What are your thoughts about AI taking over the music business? Now, if Styx or Genesis or Supertramp came
Right.
out today, they'd have no chance. No chance.
No
Roger
chance.
Hodgson would be
No.
broke. Rick Davies
Yeah.
would be broke. I mean, but I think it was better back in the 70s or 80s to become a musician because you sold a single on a 45, you get what? If you sell a 45, your single of your song is a single on a 45 and you sell it, what do you get? Like what did you get? Like 40 cents or
Yeah.
20 cents?
Couple cents on the dollar. Yeah.
But you can't eat with
Yeah.
Spotify. 1,000,000 downloads are like 5,000
Nothing.
bucks. Yeah,
Nothing.
not
Yeah.
even. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a real shame. And music has changed. Like we were talking about the 45 earlier. Like if the 45 changed music because you had to record music within like a 3 to 4 5 minute span. It really put a time limit on music depending on how much the 45 was.
Mm-hmm.
And the fade out, that was to let DJs know that the song was coming to an end on 45. So that's why there was the fade out. In Spotify now, the only way you make money is if you get a listener to listen to your song for longer than 30 seconds. So the hook, you have to get into the hook so much faster. You have to grab people's attention so much quicker. And it's changed the way music is written and consumed. And you have to go viral on TikTok or on Instagram. So there's so much more involved in the marketing of it than there used to be with the 45. You could just try to get played on local radio stations and hope for sort of a natural growth from there.
Well, the other day, but Britney Spears' song "Toxic" just hit 1 billion
Yeah,
downloads on Spotify.
a
Does that
billion
mean that
downloads. Yeah.
does she get paid while people are streaming it, or did she suddenly, okay, you're 1 billion streams, here's the money for it? How does it work?
Yeah, I think she'll get residuals from that. So they'll look at those streams and pay her whatever it is, like a cent or 2 cents per stream, and they'll pay her for those things. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Post Malone?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a song called Circles. Now, I noticed that some of his songs and Taylor Swift as well, almost at the 1 billion.
Yeah.
Some of them are 900 million. And especially Circles by Post Malone. I'm thinking, how does this happen? Someone
Yeah.
said, oh, they can buy streams.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
and yet the artist is for that. It's like you don't have any honest artists out there. They're willing to, buy me some streams so I can make money off this damn song. Like I don't
Yeah.
what's going on with this?
Yeah. There are factories with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mobile phones all set up and all downloading the song, playing the song over and over again from different different cell phones to different carriers, different lines of communication, all downloading the song simultaneously for hours and hours a day. You buy how many hours you want all those phones to be streaming the song. Yeah.
Yeah. You hear about the SAG and the after strike.
Yeah.
Netflix has offered $900,000 for AI jobs. and even amidst the strike, it's protection against scary technology. Now, the main reason for the strike is because artists and actors and actresses, well, especially actors and actresses, you scan my body, you're going to scan my face, and you're going to be able to use my image in a movie. Like Tom Cruise, you can have
Yep.
like Mission Impossible 10, and that won't be Tom
Yep.
Cruise, it'll be some body double with his face, this deep fake.
Yep.
So, like, and you're going to get more homeless people because you say, "Oh, I know you. You were in that band that made millions." Yeah, but now AI took over my
Yeah.
job. Now they're going through dumpsters looking for pizza. I mean, like, what's going on
Yep.
here? Why don't they stop it? They know that's what's going to happen. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on this?
I don't think we could ever stop technology. I think technology will always evolve, and I hope that that kind of stuff doesn't happen. But I remember in the late 1800s, people that drove the horse and carriage were really upset when the car got introduced because they were all lost their jobs because the car took over their jobs. I think we will, as a society, as we adopted the car, hopefully we adopt AI technology in a less harmful way. Someone wrote a fantastic post on Facebook the other day. I'm going to steal it. The post was, humans are still doing back-breaking labor and robots are writing poetry. This isn't the future I signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that, you know, like as a photographer, AI is frightening to me because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie. I manipulate photos all the time. I can take a picture of someone and I can remove like eye bags and zits and acne and all that kind of stuff. And I do those kinds of things. But to make a photograph from nothing, just from a couple of strokes of your keyboard, that frightens me a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know what the answer is going to be. I don't know what AI is going to go do to the industry. I think we have to wait years to figure what that's going to be.
So you're actually taking pictures and you're removing eye bags and everything with some sort of piece
Sure.
of
Yeah.
software. But that they've been doing
Yeah.
that for Chatelaine. They've been doing that People magazine, especially the
Oh no.
Chatelaine. You have the girl. Like, have you seen what they
Yeah.
look like? That's
Yeah.
not what they look like. They did all the
No.
digital
No. Not.
manipulation.
No. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like deception or why don't they just, okay,
Sure. It
we're
is.
going to be
Yeah.
honest with Chatelaine. Let's just post some homeless woman and, like,
Yeah. Um, I agree with you. Like there are certain things that I won't do. Like I've been asked. I had a model who asked me to get rid of a little bit of her tummy because she thought her tummy was too big, and I refused
oh, hmm
because it wasn't. It was she had organs and ribs as a human person. Uh, you know, uh, the way I look at it, acne is not a permanent feature. So I will easily get rid of acne or stray hair and things like that. Eye bags, I leave them. I just sort of lessen them a little bit. So they still have eye bags, but I just lessen the eye bags a little bit. But I won't change people's hair color or make them have longer legs. I think, young girls growing up have enough body image problems that I don't need to be adding anything like that to that.
what kind of emotional impact are you trying to get through a photograph that you want the person to look at that photograph and know exactly how you
Hmm.
felt?
I think, for me, I want them to see that my photographs have always been a collaboration. I talk a lot with the models I'm going to photograph and what we want out of those photos. I Very rarely do I go in and just say what I want as a vision. I love the collaboration of working with people. So I want them to look at an image and go, the team that put that together, whether it's a makeup artist, stylist, the model, and myself. I want people to look at it and go, wow, the team really did good job there.
Yeah. What's wrong with just taking a photo of the model and posting it? Why all this
Nothing.
digital manipulation?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. I think for me, I noticed that there was a difference between a snapshot and a professional looking image. For me to get work, I had to show that my images looked a certain way, that I could get work from the images that I was taking, if that makes any sense.
How would you fix the shadow in a photo if there's too much shadow and you do it post production?
Yeah, pretty easy. It's all about layers. You just add more and more layers and just digitally erase uh, things from that layer. Like I've in the past I've done a lot of school photography,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll take a picture of like 20 kids or 30 kids, and there's no way you can get everyone's eyes open in every single image or the perfect smile. So one of the reasons why you take 5 and 6 images is because you're literally moving faces from one image to the other, so you can get one image where everyone's eyes are open and everyone's smiling a little bit. So you're constantly manipulating photographs, especially of kids. If you take a picture of it, when I take pictures of kids, I take 5 and 6 pictures because I know if I need to move an eyeball, I can move an eyeball from one picture to the other.
I agree with you. With the family photos, I had to have like 4 or 5 or 6 done, maybe sometimes
Yeah.
10 photos done just to get that one. And I know as
Yep.
a wedding photographer, I used to be a wedding photographer. Um, I would just take pictures, of the
Mm-hmm.
group, and then just choose the best ones. Have you ever shot a
Yeah.
wedding?
Yeah. I do a lot of weddings. I do a wedding for a company, and my camera, the one I recently bought, can do 30 frames a second.
Really? Wow.
And yeah. And I had the owner of the wedding company come up to me and she goes, "Please stop that. I have way too many images. Please don't ever put it on like that again." I was like, "Okay, yeah." So I promised I would never do that again. Yeah,
What's your
yeah.
videography like?
It's okay. I'm not a great. I definitely have studied film or photography more than video, but again, I can. I've done a few music videos for people, and I've done some wedding videos for people, so it's okay. It's not my strength, but it's all right.
How do you deal with stress when you're taking a photo and your camera breaks down, or you forget your camera, or
Hmm.
um, the somebody is such a bother? Like you take the wedding, the party, and everything, and
Yeah,
then suddenly someone
yeah.
comes up to you and said, can you take a picture of me and
Hmm.
this dog or something?"
Yeah, sure. To the first part of the question, where what do you do if something breaks?
Yeah.
I have double of everything. So
Mhm.
I have when I go shoot a wedding, I always have at least two cameras on me, sometimes three, 6, 7 batteries, different lenses, different flashes. So I make sure everything's doubled in case something breaks or I drop a camera and it breaks. Uh, so that's the first thing I do, and multiple SD cards,
Mhm.
so that nothing gets lost. And I'm back as soon as the SD card is done. I'm putting in a secure location or doing an immediate backup of the SD card. At weddings, as people drink at weddings, they
Yeah.
definitely get much more adventurous with their requests for photographs. And there's always one drunk uncle. Not always, but most of the time, there's always one drunk uncle who will come up to me and go, "What camera are you using?" I'm telling the camera user, goes, "Yeah, I wouldn't use that one. You don't know what you're doing." Like there's always one of those at every wedding that always tells me, I'm like, "Okay, thanks for the advice. Yeah, I'm all right." Yeah, I can tell you the weirdest wedding story that's ever happened to me.
Mhm.
Uh, again, I work through an agency, so I got hired through an agency to photograph this wedding, and so there's always a lead photographer and the backup photographer, and I was the backup photographer in this situation. And usually, the backup photographer goes with the groomsmen and hangs out with them because their photographs, let's face it, are least important compared to the bride. The bride's the star of the show, right?
Yeah.
So usually, the backup photographer hangs out with the groomsmen,
Mhm.
and I never met these guys before. And I walked into the hotel where the groomsmen were getting ready, and I met the groom, and I shook his hand and introduced myself, and he said to me, "I know I've just met you, but this is going to happen. We're going to do some boudoir photography." Now, obviously, you've heard of boudoir,
Yeah.
so there's a term called boudoir photography, and he says this is going to be surprised, and she's going to laugh so hard at these photographs. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it. So he stripped down to his underwear and was doing all like the cheesecake poses that women do for boudoir.
Jeez.
And yeah, there were some of the funniest photographs that I'd ever done. And he messaged me afterwards, and he goes, "Yeah, she laughed her ass off at how ridiculous the photographs were." And I was like, "Oh, I guess that's a good thing." Yeah. So boudoir, it was my first time doing boudoir photography. Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I really appreciated sometimes, like when I was working at I don't know if you're familiar with this. I think it was called, well, South Common Mall. You had Rapid Images,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then a shared mall, you had Japan Camera.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, down below by where the fountain was, there was a place
Yep.
called Moto Photo, and I worked there.
I
Now,
remember that.
when you put your film through C25
Mhm.
processing, takes 20 minutes, and then you go and sit at the printer and you print them, and that people would be outside watching the photos come
Yeah.
down. If they
Yeah.
were X-rated, you had to put like
Yeah.
a black sheet over it.
Wow, okay.
That's one of the stories I had when you're looking at them, you're like, wow, I
Yeah.
that's interesting. Like that's interesting color underwear she's wearing, you know. And you're
Yeah.
not supposed to, but you were supposed to put like the cover over it.
Yeah,
Like
sure, yeah.
I saw a lot
Of
of stuff
course.
that came like, and Don Cherry was one
Yeah.
of our customers as well.
Okay.
Come
Yeah.
see
I
him
I made
and
I I cooked in a restaurant, and I made lunch for Don Cherry once, so
oh
that was
nice.
fun, yeah. Yeah, I love Don Cherry, yeah.
Except his the Don Cherry bar grill is gone. I think it
It's gone, yeah.
went out of business 20 some odd years ago,
Yeah,
something.
something like that, yeah. I used to yeah, I've had a few beers there, yeah. Good place, yeah.
So when you're at the wedding and about time there's for the first song, for like the groom and the bride, their first
Mm,
song to dance to,
yep.
can you give us a little bit of a when you found out what the first song was that you went like you just started laughing
Yeah.
because who chooses that for a first song?
Oh,
You have a
it's
story
always
like
it's
that?
always the it's always the bride that chooses the song. It's not the greatest songs in the world. Usually it's a song that for some reason they're like, they both like or has some kind of affinity for both of them. Yeah, I can't remember any sort of specific song, but it's generally, I think God, there's a Ricky Iglesias song that gets used a lot. Maybe I want to be your hero. I think
Yes, yes, my
I
favorite
think I
song.
think that one gets used a lot. I've heard that
Yeah.
one a few times. Sometimes I'm stabbing myself in, with a fork when that song comes on. But yeah, it's generally not great, but sometimes it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the girl I used to date long time ago. Um, every time we went out to a diner, a restaurant, a mall, whatever, and I'd
Yeah.
always make sure I listened for the songs that are playing. So
Yeah.
I downloaded the songs on Napster,
Yep.
downloaded them, and I burned. If anybody out there knows in this
Mm.
generation what burning a CD is all about, I used to burn a CD of all the songs. And I'd say, "This is Enrique Iglesias, I Will Survive. We heard this at the Starbucks, you
Yeah.
know." And she
Yeah. Yeah.
loved
Yeah.
it. You know, some of the
Yeah.
best times that
Exactly.
we had. Yeah. I love
No.
doing that.
Yeah. I'm with you. Like certain songs will remind me of certain places.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, like I remember I backpacked through Ireland, and this was 1997, and Oasis was huge, and I
Mhm.
just heard Oasis everywhere. Every time I think of Ireland, my backpacking trip of Ireland, I think of
Mhm.
Oasis, and What's the Story, Morning Glory, and Wonderwall, and all that stuff. So yeah, music just has this affinity for reminding you of where you were at a certain place, or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just heard Wonderwall just today, actually. And the
Hmm.
Gallagher brothers, I think Liam and Noel, I think they just recently kind of re, what do you call that? They've
Rekindled their bromance.
rekindled the bromance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. They've hated each other for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if they ever get back in the same room together because they don't like each other. No.
did you ever sit and listen to a Christina Aguilera or Britney Spears song right through without getting up and say, I can't listen to the rest of this?
Not on purpose, probably. No. Maybe if it was like if I was at a bar or a sporting event, or if the song came on, then you sort of have to maybe. Yeah, but not. I wouldn't go out and put that on for any reason. No.
So when you're at home with Angie and you're playing
Yeah.
music, is it her music or your music that's playing?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Angie's music is, like I said, her taste in music is really good because it's very similar to mine. Um, but she definitely listens to a lot more like heavy metal than I do. Yeah.
Well, Pete, we got two last questions here, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Shoot. Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Yeah. I'm hoping. that I'm living in Perth. We talked about Perth earlier. I
Mhm.
really want to move to Perth, and I don't have any kids. All I have is a partner and a dog. So
It's the
we
best thing.
definitely moving wouldn't be a problem at all. We would just have to uh, just rent a truck, and I could drive to Perth. It would take me a couple weeks, but I could do it. I love road trips. I don't want to give up photography. I don't think while photography is a job I have, it's my passion. So some doing something with photography, hopefully in Perth, Australia. How about you? What do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
Yes, that's a great question. Well, I've been working for the government since 2001,
Mm,
and now our software is being taken over, and I'm losing like
yeah.
75, 80% of my position. But
Hmm.
um, I'm supposed to retire in 2 years,
Nice.
but I'm not sure about that because,
Yeah.
the quality of life and, the inflation,
Yeah.
somebody
It's
told me that
brutal.
you have to like $3 million before you retire. It's like, really? When am I going to have $3 million?
No. No.
And continue
Yeah.
with the podcast. And my main
Yeah.
thing is that I get Sting on the podcast.
You
I
get
want
Sting.
Sting on
Yes.
my, yes, yes.
Mr. Richard Sumner. I think that's his name.
No, Gordon Sumner.
Gordon Sumner. Damn it. So close.
Yeah. And I think this ridiculous new police reunion, which only has Andy Summers part of it. Sting isn't even in it. Stuart
Right.
Copeland isn't in it. I'm like, really? If I'm going to go see the police, I want to see Sting. I want to see Andy Summers. I want to see Stuart
Yeah.
Copeland. I don't want to see just one of them. I want to see them. Now, I'll
No.
go see Sting
Yeah.
as
Yeah. Yeah.
Sting solo stuff. But if you're going to be the police and you're going to rekindle a reunion as police, make it the police. I mean, you can't do that
Yeah.
with Bee Gees anymore, but there's a
No, you
great
can't.
Bee Gees
No.
tribute band out there called Night
Yeah.
Fever, and they sound just like
Right.
them, just like Beatlemania, right?
Is Yeah, Stuart Copeland, he's the drummer, isn't he?
That's right.
Yeah.
Remember
So
he
I saw an interview with Stuart Copeland, and he said that when the police were almost at the end of their tenure in like 84, 85, that he set up his drum kit so that the cymbals would always cover Sting at all times. He hated Sting
because
so much.
he didn't
He didn't
laugh.
want
I
to
was
see.
going to mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And where do I see myself in 5 years? Well, I hope to get married again.
Yeah.
I want to travel more, and if I am going to retire, I want to have something to back up. Like I want to monetize my
Yeah.
podcast. And
Sure.
I want to
Yeah.
make enough money so I can retire because there's like a lot of money. So I want to monetize. Now they have different rules. There's 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours.
Yeah.
That's all you need now. And I'm 175
You're
away or
close.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to be monetized and I want to do something fun in my life. I don't want to be like,
Yeah.
I'm single, I'm alone. Everyone has their own relationship with somebody. And I don't want to be
Sure.
out there
Yeah.
doing something. I see him with her and her with him. And I'm the only
Yeah.
one that's just with me. Right. So I want to be able to have a relationship and whatever. And I want to
Yeah. You
enjoy it
should
just
you,
one
you
day at
should
a
move to
time.
Australia.
No, because your
You're
seasons are all screwed up.
you'd be exotic over here. That's why. I'd be just an ordinary Joe back home, and yeah. No, here,
Well,
yeah,
you're
it's not bad.
Well, you're the only one. We have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. You guys have what? Spring, winter,
No, just summer and
autumn,
summer and winter. That's it.
summer, and winter. Just 2 seasons.
That's it. Yeah.
That's screwed up.
Yeah.
And when you
No,
have to call
that's
your brothers, is there a certain time you have to call them so that you don't wake them up at 4 a.m.? Oh, sorry, Lou.
yeah,
I didn't know it was 4
yeah.
a.m. there, but I'm having
I
fun. It's 5 here.
No, it's usually the reverse. I get a lot of messages from Lou at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because I don't think he
Okay.
understands the time zones.
Yeah.
Um, like I remember I got a message from him one time at like 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "What's the weather like?" And I'm like, "Don't you have the internet? Like, just just type in what's the weather like in Brisbane. Just do a Google search. I don't know why you have to wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning."
I know.
Uh, yeah, but that happens every once in a while. Yeah.
Well, everyone, just hit play is Pete
Yeah.
and Nick's podcast. Listen to that. I'm actually subscribed to that. I don't think you're on YouTube though. You,
No,
how,
we're thinking about doing a YouTube series as well, but there's a lot of editing that needs to happen. So
oh,
I'll see how
yeah.
that goes. Yeah.
I just edited 4 episodes the last couple of days. because
Yeah.
I'm so behind. I want to upload it. I've had a few people saying, "Where's mine? Where's my episode?" I did
Yeah.
one in March. It's a birthday episode. I'm like, "This is
Mm.
my birthday today. We're special guests, whatever."
Right.
And it's July, and my birthday was in
Yeah.
March. I'm like, "Oh," so I had to. I'm so
Yeah.
embarrassed. I'm gonna post this. So why did you said you're gonna post it a week after? And I'm like, I
Yeah. No, the
couldn't.
editing is it's the editing that takes forever. Well, eventually, hopefully, if you once you start monetizing your podcast, you can
Mhm.
send out to be edited by someone else.
My editing process is getting a little better. I mean,
Yeah.
I just edited 3, 4 episodes in 2 days. So, why not?
Yeah.
30 minutes here, 30 minutes there.
Well, for our podcast, we have an engineer, which is a buddy of mine, Darren, who's a fantastic engineer, and his
Yes.
IT skills are unparalleled. And he edits all the sound, and then he sends it to me, and then I do a final listen to see if there's anything he missed, and then usually he doesn't miss much things, and then we publish it. But he even said it, like the first couple of podcasts, there was a lot of editing that he had to do because we were so new to it. But now there's not much editing. He goes, I can pretty much let it just go, and I'll just take out a couple things here and there. So we've made his job a little bit easier now that we're into our 100th and something episode. Yeah.
I'm thinking of just sort of letting it go too, because it just take a long time to edit. And usually I
It
do it
does.
on the iPhone as quick because I don't have an Apple, and
Yeah.
whenever I edit video, about the video rendering, sometimes it take an hour to 2 hours to video render it.
So long. Yeah.
But in the iPhone, 2 minutes, that's it. Boom. The processing speed
Yeah.
is incredible on there. If I had an iPad, I'd do it on iPad, but I only have like
Yeah.
3 laptops, and you can't do editing on those old things.
No.
Um,
Well, I was thinking about doing a YouTube series because I'm really fascinated by music history,
mhm.
and just doing like just a quick once a week upload of just weird musical facts that have happened, and just doing that. You just have to be careful because if you use music, then you can get blocked for violations for copyright. So you have to be very quick on what your musical choices are. If see, if I'm talking about the Rolling Stones, and if I'm talking about Angie, like we were talking about earlier, and I want to share a little snippet of Angie, it can only be a few seconds long. You can't use the song in a lot of ways. So you have to be very careful with copyright infringement.
Yeah, who's the guy from Metallica that caused a lot of issues for people who are downloading?
Lars.
Lars, yes.
Yeah.
Well, apparently we have another one who matches that now. Apparently, you should go check out his channel. His name is Charles Berthold, and he's a bass player.
Okay.
And he
Yeah.
did a cover song of Hotel California by the Eagles.
Yep. The Eagles are
And
notorious for.
it was
Yeah.
removed, and he was so pissed off.
Yeah.
Him and Rick Beato as well. He was so pissed
Yeah.
off that he took to court. And he says that Don Henley, the Eagles, they have just people out there that go scour the internet searching for
Yep.
cover songs of the Eagles and remove them. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's great promotion.
Yeah.
They're promoting your music by posting cover song, and you're ruining it for it. Like crazy.
Yeah. You can't post the Eagles online. You can't use any of their music because you'll get blocked. Yeah.
Definitely, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, just so tell the audience about Just Hit Play. When do you usually upload a video? I mean, upload a podcast?
Yeah, we upload every Sunday, so it's we haven't done one in the last few weeks because I've been working. I worked 17 days straight doing photography, so I just didn't have time to do a podcast. But we're recording this Friday again, and I'm hoping. I haven't talked to Nicholas yet, but I gave him a song to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to try to change it to a Sinead O'Connor song because we just lost the passing of one of my favorite artists, Sinead O'Connor. So I'm going to ask for him to listen to a Sinead O'Connor song. He hasn't responded yet because he's not online a lot like I am. Please, you can find us in any podcast player. Just hit play. If you've never heard of The Doors or Supertramp, or if you never heard of Little Uzi Vert, which he's getting me to listen to, it's a great way to listen to new music. And thank you for inviting me on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We were talking about the Eagles, and you forgot to mention that Mr. Meisner passed away as well.
Oh my God, that's right.
So that's another
sad.
one that we lost. Yeah, but Sinead O'Connor, everyone's just, I guess if it's a musician and you gotta show respect. Like when what's his name, Mr. Van Halen passed away, people were like, oh, I mean, I'll still say I hate Jump, but nothing again.
Right. It's not a good song. No, that's fine.
But Pete, thank you very much for being on the podcast. Before we go,
Thank
I
you.
want you to, you're very welcome. I want you to give 2 advices, one for an up and coming photographer and one for an
Yep.
up and coming podcaster. Go with the photographer
Sure.
first.
Yeah, photography first. If you're starting in photography, just shoot as much as you can. Digital cameras are great. Don't stop shooting. Make mistakes. Figure things out. Don't even have to buy very expensive gear. Buy cheap gear and just keep photographing, photographing, and photographing. Bug your family members, the people that can't say no to you, and just take as many photographs as you can to learn photography, because it's a skill like anything else. And as a podcaster, you would know this as much as I do. Find a topic that you really love, because you'll be talking about that topic for hours and hours and hours,
Yeah.
and editing for hours and hours and hours. So it has to be something you absolutely adore and you absolutely love. So if you want to start a podcast, find a subject that you love and that you can talk about forever. And music, what's better than music?
Yeah, Pete, I'm so happy that we would have you on, and
Yeah,
that
me
we
too,
actually
man.
know each other already, and your brother's a
Yeah,
good friend of mine,
yeah,
and so everyone, everything will be linked down below, and yeah, look forward to talking to you again. Thanks,
yeah.
Pete. We're gonna
Cheers.
end this stream.
Thank you.
Yep, just stay there
Thank
for
you
one
so much,
second.
everyone.
Yep. Uh, darn.